Today we're talking about 361 Degrees' newest up-tempo speed day, possibly race day trainer. This is the 361 Degrees Flame ST. Let's get into it. Now, full disclosure, 361 Degrees was good enough to send me the Flame ST for the purpose of review. However, they're not going to get a chance to see this video before you do. They also sent me, let me reach down here for it, the Flame RS. This is the race day version of this shoe. They look very similar when they're right next to each other, don't they? But we'll talk about the Flame RS in another video. Now, the Flame ST and the Flame RS are offshoots of the original Flame, and the Flame was released back in 2021, and it was 361 Degrees' first carbon-plated racer. Now, this year when they've released the two versions of the Flame, they're kind of separating what the shoes can do, and it's exactly what we've seen a lot of other brands do. They have the training partner to their racing partner, and much like 361 Degrees competitors, the training shoe is actually pretty good and could probably be used for racing. But I will tell you about how this shoe feels on the run in just a second. Let's talk about some specs. The 361 Degrees Flame ST will cost you $160. We have 32 in the heel, 24 in the forefoot for an 8mm drop. Now, on the 361 Degrees site, they do cite the weight as being 7.5 ounces. However, what they don't identify is what size that 7.5 ounces is for. It's probably for a US men's size 9. That's generally the sample size. So if it is, we can say a US men's size 9 is 7.5 ounces or 213 grams. However, in my size, a US men's size 12, the Flame ST tips the scale at 9.8 ounces or 277 grams. It's pretty light for a training shoe, and it feels really light on my foot. Now, the observant of you may have noticed, or at least the long-time viewers will know, that I did say that I'm wearing a US men's size 12. Now, on 361 Degrees US website, they do recommend going down a half size. And as you know, I usually wear a US men's size 13 in most shoes. Even in previous 361 Degrees shoes, I've gone with a US men's size 13. However, because the US size 12.5 was not available, I opted for the US men's size 12, and guess what? It fits me absolutely perfectly. So I can't say that these are true to size when it comes to other 361 Degrees shoes, or in fact other shoes, but 361 Degrees has recognized this, and they do advise you to size down. I think in a lot of shoes, my size 13 is just a little on the big side, so for me, dropping a full size to a size 12 was the right call to make, and it actually fits really well. But let's start at the top, let's work our way down. Let me first hold it up, and you can see this heel collar. Now, we don't have padding immediately on the top of this heel collar, which is what we see with a lot of shoes nowadays. The heel cushioning is like a bolster coming around the sides and the back, which obviously is a great way to save weight while still providing the cushion that we want. The heel counter is very rigid. I mean, there is a big piece of plastic in there. I guess I can almost push it down if I really push hard, but it does provide a good lockdown. I didn't have any heel slip. The upper is a very breathable engineered mono mesh, and this never comes across on camera the way I am looking at this shoe right now, but there are little laser cut holes in the upper, and I can actually see the inside of the shoe, and I've taken this out on a lot of very hot runs and haven't had any trouble with my feet overheating, other than what is completely normal for running in absurdly hot temperatures. The Flame RS uses quite a few overlays. You can see all these coming around the lateral and the medial side. We've got the branding, the 361 Degrees 3 logo on both sides, and then on the toe box there is an underlay just around the toe box, giving you a little protection and keeping that upper up off your toes. Like all shoes, we have the overlays right along the eyelet chain. The 361 calls their lacing system the Morphic lacing system. Honestly, I can't quite tell how this lacing system differs from any other lacing system, but it does work, and it works very well. I do get a nice lockdown across the top of my foot. I don't have any lace bite, which is actually pretty funny because the tongue is very, very thin. It's definitely a race day tongue in a training shoe. I guess the tongue does have a little bit of padding right on the top, and it is not gusseted, but it does have a single lace loop right on the top. Now, once the tongue gets down a little further, it kind of changes into a mesh material, just increasing the breathability across your midfoot. Again, no issues with breathability on this shoe. As I sit here talking to you guys about this shoe, I'm really looking at it with different eyes, and it's a very good looking shoe. I know that's totally subjective, but it is to me. Let's come down to the midsole. And for the midsole, 361 Degrees is using QuickFlame. QuickFlame is their proprietary foam. It is a PEBA-based nylon elastomer, and you can kind of see it on the side, but if we look on the bottom, you can see it a little more. You can see it's kind of beaded, which is very similar to Power Run PB. However, the look of the foam is exactly where the similarities end between QuickFlame and Power Run PB, because QuickFlame is quite a firm foam. And I did give you a quick glimpse of it, but let's take another glimpse through the bottom. There is a little window with a plate, and like a lot of other shoes, that plate is not carbon. Carbon plate is saved for the race day version, but the plate in the Flame ST is the QuickSpine FTP, and FTP is a acronym for Flexible Transfer Plate, and QuickSpine, I guess, is just their proprietary name for the spine that runs through the shoe. And just like a spine, it lends support to the shoe, gives a little structure to that midsole, and of course when we add a plate to any midsole, it just assists with the propulsion. Clearly contributes to this shoe feeling quite fast. If we come down to the outsole, we've got a lot of rubber coverage. It's an RPU rubber for traction and control. There is plenty of it, and as I look at it now, the rubber is actually standing up very well. Maybe I see a little bit of wear here on the outside lateral heel, but otherwise, yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of wear at all, which is actually pretty surprising, which indicates that the shoe is going to be quite resilient and going to stand up to whatever punishment, whatever kind of mileage you put into it. 361 Degrees has also enhanced their forefoot rocker, which is going to contribute to those fast transitions, which is also aided by the firm quick flame foam and the quick spine plate. This is all very hard to get out. All these proprietary names are very much a tongue twister. Quick flame, quick spine, FTP, RPU. Now I keep mentioning that this shoe does feel fairly fast, and it's also very stable. You can see we have a very wide base here. If we look at it from the top, we do have a little bit of sole flare. Is that coming out on the camera very well? I think so. The shoe feels very stable underfoot when I pick up the pace, when I go around corners, but it also feels very stable because of the firmness of the midsole. And the firmness of the midsole actually contributes to a very good kind of road feel. Now, I know we're not feeling the road. We've got 32 millimeters in the heel, 24 in the forefoot with a plate in between. There's not a lot of road to be felt, and yet the firm foam does make me feel like I'm feeling the road, and it gives me a feeling of control when I'm running in this shoe. Now, I keep telling you that the ride is very firm. It is not very firm. I don't want you to think that it's too firm. This is actually a very satisfying ride. And I've taken this shoe out probably a maximum of 12 miles at an easy pace. And at the end of that 12 miles, my legs weren't feeling fatigued at all. Now, because I get the chance to run in a lot of shoes are very soft. So I first noticed the firmness of this foam when I first put them on. But that feeling of firmness is fairly short-lived. The shoe does tend to disappear on my foot, and I've actually got no complaints with how firm the foam is. There is a lot of alliteration in today's video. Now you might be wondering, what is this shoe like? What can I compare it to? Well, to me, it is a direct competitor to the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Flash. And as you may know, I did run a half marathon in this late last year, and the Wave Rebellion Flash is just slightly heavier than the Flame RS, and it feels a little firmer. The Wave Rebellion Flash does feature a glass fiber plate, just like the Flame RS, but if I had to choose, I think the Flame RS is just a little bit more well-rounded of a shoe. And this is totally subjective, and I'm giving you my opinion, but I do prefer a slightly softer ride. And the Flame is just slightly softer than the Wave Rebellion Flash. However, with that said, I don't want you shying away from a shoe that is just a little firmer, because at the shorter distances, a little firmness is really going to benefit you. So all in all, I think the Flame RS fits directly into the area of the running market that 361 Degrees intended. It is an extremely comfortable, very fast-feeling shoe that is perfect for running intervals, running tempo runs, and fortunately for me, feels good on easy runs too, because I usually warm up for a few miles before I get into any speed work, and then I usually cool down for a few miles after. And I really can't stand a shoe that feels like it's beating me up when I'm done running in it. So for $160, I think the Flame RS is actually fairly good value. And I don't want to sound too surprised, but I was a little surprised at how much I like this shoe. It's a good all-rounder, as long as you think of an all-rounder being just at faster paces. I certainly wouldn't buy this shoe as a daily trainer unless you really love a firmer ride when you're just taking it easy. For me though, the Flame RS is a good shoe and a good tool for the workouts that I will use it for. So guys, I want to hear from you. Have you ever run in a 361 degree shoe? If you haven't, is there a specific shoe that you use to do your faster workouts? And do you also race in the same shoe that you do your faster workouts in? And with that, my name is Matt B. This has been my review of the 361 Degrees Flame ST. If it's been a couple weeks since this video originally posted, look for my video on the Flame RS. And if you're watching this video in the early days of it being published, stand by for that video on the Flame RS. Be kind, be happy, run well. I'll see you in a couple of days.